let's talk about Michael Bloomberg, since we're talking about those wealthy conservatives trying to get everyone's vote that are not being very effective at it. What's Michael Bloomberg up to? Let's have a look at his foreign policy, or how he speaks about foreign policy. So this is a candidate who, like Pete Buttigieg, has only been a mayor. Unlike Pete Buttigieg, his town was somewhat larger. He's the former mayor of New York City, obviously. And as a former mayor of New York City, you'd think that he'd have a lot to say about terrorism and have a pretty well-formulated opinion on foreign policy, given that 9/11 and other terrorist attacks, and New York has sort of been the highly militarized police, sort of ground zero. Of course, ground zero, but like sort of the petri dish testing ground for militarized police and counterterrorism, factions, etc. But the way he speaks about it is very telling. So look back a decade ago. So in 2010, there was a Nissan Pathfinder SUV that was filled with fertilizer and propane in Times Square. The police were able to disarm it. It could have exploded and killed hundreds of people. That it could have been a really bad attack. It happened on the day of the Washington, D.C. Correspondents' Dinner, White House Correspondents' Dinner. And Barack Obama had some sort of normal things to say about it, and echoed sort of the Bush line around the war on terror, and Bloomberg did the same thing. At the time, Bloomberg said, terrorists around the world who feel threatened by the freedoms that we have always focus on the symbols of freedoms, on those symbols of freedoms, and that is New York City. So that's his reading of it, is this happened in my city because we're that shining freedom beacon in America, and we're the symbol of that freedom, and they hate us for it. So 2 days later, a 30-year-old Pakistani American named Faisal Shahzad was arrested, and he was trying to board a flight from Kennedy to Dubai. So Bloomberg offered essentially the same view. He said, we will not be intimidated, those who hate our freedoms that make this city and this country so great. So Shahzad pled guilty the next month, and in his explanation for why he did it, he said, until the hour the U.S. pulls its forces from Iraq and Afghanistan and stops the drone strikes in Somalia and Yemen and in Pakistan, and stops the occupation of Muslim lands and stops killing the Muslims and stops reporting the Muslims to its government, we will be attacking U.S. That was his statement. That's what having pled guilty and being sentenced, or has not yet been sentenced, but will eventually be sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. That's why he says he did what he did. You'll note the constant references to America's freedoms and how much he hates them in those statements, right? Please note the sarcasm.
Noted.
That October, he was sentenced. He ended up getting, like I said, prison without the possibility of parole. And again, he sought to justify his attack. He said, quote, we are only Muslims trying to defend our people, honor, and land. But if you call us terrorists for doing that, then we are proud terrorists, and we will keep terrorizing until you leave our land and people at peace. Well, the drone hits in Afghanistan and Iraq. They kill women, children, they kill everyone. Right? He's basically justifying or attempting to justify his acts of terror by saying you are inflicting terror upon us and upon our people and on our lands indiscriminately, and you never change anything about it. And the framing that you get out of someone like Bloomberg just shows a willingness to go along with the intelligence agency sort of groupthink of like, we have to keep this, we have to continue counterinsurgency operations, we have to change this regime, it's all about this dictator's bad, that dictator's bad, we have to shore up defenses for oil transport, we have to make sure that we get the rare earth minerals, we can't let the terrorists take hold here or take hold there, just play whack-a-mole throughout the entire region. And they go, no, it isn't about we hate American freedoms. It isn't about like we're envious of your hamburgers and pizzas and your, flashy TVs, cell phones and cars and computers and internet and stuff. We don't like being bombed indiscriminately because we happen to live in this region of the world and happen to be of this religion. None of the reasoning behind any of the terrorist actions have anything to do with hating our freedoms. And when you see politicians like Bloomberg repeat uncritically and apparently without a shred of thought that that is indeed the motive behind these attacks, you know they're full of it. You know that they're supporting that endless war. They're supporting anything it takes to keep that money flowing to the companies that manufacture these weapons of war, to keep geopolitical sanctions favoring U.S. countries, to keep us in a position where we can exploit the world's resources with impunity. That is not a peaceful position to take. It's not a just position to take. It's not a factual position to take. It's a deplorable, horrible, awful position to take. No one should trust this man. I don't think anyone does. I feel like I'm speaking to the choir, but this makes me mad.
So it's there's so much to unpack with all this. So they hate us for our freedoms. Been used for about 20 years. The irony of that statement is that, you know, if they do hate us for our freedoms, why did we do away with them? Why do we pass the Patriot Act? They hate us for our freedoms. They hate us for our freedoms. I don't even know if that I can make that make sense in my own mind. I've never heard of someone going, those people are too free. I hate them. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's never really, I don't know how that took off. I guess people are just, you know, follow each other. But it seems very, reasonable is not even the right word. That, I mean, again, I just to have a random country, just to kind of emphasize this, and that's China. I don't mean to really pick on China just because China's pretty awesome in their military spending. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's very hard to unpack this well. So again, let's just pick China. If China bombed the U.S. continuously, day after day, day after day, day after day, day after day, and China said, America hates us for our, high-speed internet, our good roads, our, hydroelectric capacity, our good education system with exceptions. And so that's what they hate us, and that's why we're bombing them. I'm just trying to, it's like, none of this makes sense, but I don't think it's supposed to. Right. I think what it's supposed to do is just like impeachment. It's meant to distract people so they don't think about it too. I mean, I still remember when I was super young that people would say, I'm going to get some freedom fries. I don't get French fries anymore because the French aren't helping us with this war in Iraq. The correct way to look at this is we are in these countries to maintain strategic interests that mainly derive from oil. At the exact same time, we are refusing to talk about climate change, and we're refusing to get off oil. And this is just all PR. And if there's anyone that probably has stock investments in that, if there's anyone, again, he's mayor of New York, so he's going with talking points that were used when 9/11 happened. It's disgraceful because it doesn't add anything. It doesn't do anything. It obfuscates the real issues. And you have the guy responding. It's like, I don't hate you because you're free. I hate you because you're killing my family or people I know, and you're destroying our country. And I'm trying to do this little bit to strike back because a fertilizer bomb it costs $200. It's like, that's a wedding. We blow up a wedding that's that big. It's we do that routinely. Neither side is justified, but why is it that when a very strong country can do it, it's fine?
We're sort of glossing over is that Bloomberg knows he's telling a lie, right? Bloomberg knows it's propaganda. The intelligence community knows it's propaganda. I mean, so even 10 years ago, the narrative that jihadist extremists attack the West because they hate our freedoms was both false and an outdated one, which is what Adam, I'm going to butcher his name, Wunish said of the Quincy Institute in Washington, D.C. He mentions that, for instance, the British intelligence told UK policymakers in 2003 that if the UK joined the invasion of Iraq, quote, the threat from al-Qaeda would increase. This has been a known strategic part of the war on terror since the very beginning. Hey, we can't just go indiscriminately bombing people and not expect a blowback. We've learned that since the Mujahideen in the late 70s. Like, we've known that.
Yeah.
This is not up for debate. This is national foreign policy consensus. This is how it works. But if you want to do that for other reasons, then you have to come up with a different reason to do it that you can sell, because we want to take their oil isn't a reason that sells. Oh, they hate us for our freedom. That'll be the PR line. That's the propaganda.
You know what they should use if they want to be a little more genuine? They just say, hey, we'll save you 50 cents on the pump.
Yeah, but people wouldn't buy it. People wouldn't accept killing the hundreds of people per day that we do if the real answer was, well, we're trying to keep the prices better at the pump.
It's crazy what marketing can accomplish. It really is crazy what marketing can accomplish.
I want to call out Marcus Will. How are we going to get Tulsi to meet Assange? I don't know, but I want to see that. That would be amazing.
That'd be a great live stream.
Man, can you imagine? That would be the conversation. Yeah.
I would love to, we get a dream team in the office. Get Assange pardoned immediately, and then Tulsi goes and shakes his hand. That would be man. I'm you know what? That'd be an amazing hypothetical reality that we could live in.
I mean, I'm gearing up. The Assange news is coming, folks. Right? There's been a drought of Assange news as he's been in prison in Belmarsh awaiting extradition hearings, which will happen in February, if I remember correctly. I think relatively early in February, February is going to be an incredibly busy news month because we're going to have primaries rolling in throughout the month. Iowa's February 2nd.
Yep.
We're going to have, again, the Assange hearing will be going up. I'm pretty sure Chelsea Manning will be up for another round. If they re-indict her, I think she'll end up being released around that time, late January. There's storms are brewing. I mean, this is very calm before the storm right now.
Oh, yeah. No, again, literally, we've been talking the whole year. We expect January to be slower. Maybe it's not. It'd be really nice if it wasn't. We'd have a lot more to cover for you guys, tell you what's going on. But February is when things are going to go nuts.
Yeah. Well, and so January being slower is, I think, just sort of the mainstream news flow will be slower. And that's when I think we'll see a lot of very quiet actions made in very authoritative and high positions, which is sort of it's like, I know we're going to miss some things are going to slip through the cracks, but I'm going to be looking at what's going on with various administrations. Has anyone made any interesting FOIA requests recently? Is there anything quietly being done that isn't being? I think that's when I think the small, underreported stories often happen, are in those weird lulls, the January lull.
Hey, we will be here to cover that.